My name's Brock. This is Owen. We basically met each other Friday over a couple beers. We had about 12 ideas, and then we started to have some more beers and realized we need to come up with something that we can definitely do in a weekend, kind of 36-hour kind of project. So one of the reasons why I wanted to join kind of these hackathons is I'm trying to come up with solutions that can really be applied on Monday in my office to potentially solve some problems. And I was really excited to be paired up with a developer because in some hackathons you don't always get the opportunity to actually work with developers. So thank you guys for coming to these things and encourage other developers to come out because it's a really important part of the AEC hackathons. We come with these great ideas, and trust me, I've gotten my ideas shot down because there weren't enough developers to actually hack it. So I think what we propose is something that's fairly simple and something that you could take home with you and potentially apply to a project. I'm really interested in the idea of showing clients the design process. Too many times we start with this room and we design, and then we want this polished, clean look of a rendering or some final product before we show it in front of the client. And then we find out we were in the wrong direction for the last 6 weeks, and we need to restart. So the concept of what we're showing today, it's VRML because it's kind of homage to those of you that might have known a little bit of how we've gotten to this stage. So if you don't know that, Wikipedia that. But we've kind of recoined the term virtual review management loop. What we're trying to do is show very quickly the iterative process of design and then putting that online with our client through a simple tool called the internet, and being able to take our geometry while it's simple and while it is in that early kind of green stage to actually get influence and review that process. I also had a toy, that Oculus, that I know come next year might actually be something that we could actually have in our client's hands. So we're getting closer to that point. So I'm going to go through this really quickly, but in general, we're trying to take the design tool, whatever the design tool is, put it online, however we need to put it online. We ran into a lot of obstacles here, and I'll let Owen explain some of the obstacles we ran into, but in general, we're trying to take the design and then put it in VR, and we'll have a short demo. So
Brock's going to sort of sit down, start the demo, or get set up for the demo, and like talk about the sort of technical side of what we encountered, what we did. So, you know, just like Brock was saying, sort of, you're trying to do this from for a very early stage in the design. Unfortunately, a lot of this technology that we're using is also still very early in this, sort of, especially the web side of things. So we started with, the designers in Revit. They're working on the Revit model, and then our sort of interchange format was actually exporting to the standard OBJ file format. We're actually using Dropbox for synchronization, which again, you could use any technology here. Dropbox is easiest for us to get running in the last 2 hours. An OBJ file is sent up to your server, which is my laptop sitting over there, because you can't host anything on this local internet, so I had to host off my phone. Running just a simple Python server for receiving that update to Dropbox and the file system, and then hosting that on a web page for the client, which will be Brock on his desktop, to navigate to. And that will open up a browser tab that will actually pull in that OBJ file along with HTML and CSS, and render that into the memory for a representation that can be rendered by the VR device.
So what I have here, sorry for me to talk to to my back this way, but what I have here is a Revit model. The intention behind this is that I have a view and I have some work inside of this environment. So there's some geometry, there's some things that I want to make changes to. Before I make those changes, I've already sent this to my client. So the client has a Google Cardboard, or maybe next year they actually have an Oculus. So you can imagine they're looking at this design and they can see aspects of that design in stereo. So
it's all in the browser using just standard open source software to render it all and enable it to be used.
So we see here that we have 3 desks. The client says, I don't need 3 desks, I actually need 2. And if you guys actually use the Enuma system, you'd actually know that. So that's progress that we can make in the industry, right? So here I've got my model. I'll go into my plan view and I'll find those 3 desks, and I'll just delete one of those desks so we can see this design iterative process. So that's changed. I want to save my Revit model. In 3ds Max, we actually have, in 2016, the ability to link a model to Max. So pretty amazing, 2 Autodesk products actually linking and talking to each other. So I think there's some progress coming to the market there. I noticed that my red flag says that it needs an update, so I'm just going to reload that model. So native Revit model hasn't been converted. It's actually doing the conversion in the back end with Max. It's now updated. So within Max, I'm simply just going to export my model. And I'm overriding the same file, the same file location. And it exports, and it's done. I've got a fairly simple model here. I go back to my browser, and I'm going to refresh the browser here to get this update. And now you see there's 2 desks. So we're thinking this process starts to turn into something where we could be on the phone with the client, we could be on the phone with hundreds of clients, because it's just a URL. Some of them could have Cardboard, some of them could have Oculus.
Some of them could use the browser. This is all navigating through the mouse.
And we're really hoping that in time, this kind of way of showing the client, things that we're trying to move around in here. Sorry, my mouse is a little far from the computer, but the intention behind this is that you could basically ship this to your client, ship them a cardboard, and tell them to put their phone inside and actually experience this while they're talking to you over the phone, making design changes actually on the fly with the client. And I think this is where we're headed. And we're not using any proprietary. There is no paid subscription to this location. So the storage of this effort could actually be local to a small architect who doesn't want to pay exorbitant storage fees for sharing and collaborating with their clients. So that's pretty much it. Any questions for us? Thanks.